Okay, so please. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Good evening, friends who are joining us here from Israel, from Palestine, and of course, good afternoon or good morning for friends from the US or from Europe. We have a great honor to host today Hamze Awade. I personally have the honor to host him because he's a personal friend of mine for many years. I think our paths crossed more than 10 years ago, working together in Yala Young Leaders, which is still very important and influential Facebook group that combine young people from the Middle East and North Africa with lots of activities. This was our first meeting, and since then we are very good friends. Hamze is activist, as I wrote in our invitation, working with Yala, with Peace and Hands of Peace, and other organizations. Right now, Hamze is in Manchester, talking with pupils in schools, and he will tell us about it later. My name is Awade. I'm also I'm not such a big peace activist, but I'm more volunteering in different groups in Israel and also in Sipur Hikaya, which is right now where we are together. Sipur Hikaya is both words are a story in Hebrew and Arabic, and we are dealing with the two narratives, the Israeli and the Palestinians narrative, trying to make it more familiar to both populations here, to the Israelis and to the Palestinians. Right now, we are more busy with the Israelis, lack of sources, to say. We started with I hope everybody will see that. I need to take off the background. I take it off for a minute. This book, which is called to study the narrative of the other, was written by Israelis and Palestinians teachers, history teachers. It was written about 20 years ago, even more. They worked together. It was a tremendous effort to do it. It's not easy to do it in time of conflict. It was a conflict then. It is a conflict still today. But they sat together for a few years, and the results was a book that is with both narratives that we open the page that you can see. One side is the Israeli or the Zionist, and the other one is the Palestinians. And there's a this, of course, is in Hebrew. There is a similar book in Arabic, and it was translated to a few other languages as well, English, I think also German. Unfortunately, this book was banned by both ministers of education. I'll write it later. The book was banned by both ministries of education in Israel and in Palestine, but there were some brave teachers. I met some of them, Israelis and Palestinians, that took the chance or took the risk, and they did it in their schools. One teacher did it in his private home. He took some students, and they learned it at home. A few years ago, some of the Israeli teachers decided to write a curriculum for a high school. We call it Horizon the Conflict, Ofek Basepsuch in Hebrew. And it's a one-year program for high school that deals with the conflict, with the important subject of the conflict since the beginning of the 20th century. And this program was studied last year in about 7 high schools. About 1,000 Israeli Jewish pupils studied it, and we wanted to continue it, of course, this year, but unfortunately the 7th of October changed everything. And some teachers continue to teach it this year also, but only few of them, unfortunately. And we plan to go back and do all our efforts. So next year, more students will study it. We also try to adapt it to Arabic. So also Palestinians, Israeli citizens can study it in their schools, and hopefully also in Palestine, in West Bank, in Gaza. One day, I hope it will be also possible to learn the narrative of Gaza, to understand that both sides have their story, both sides, as all of us here, we are living here, and nobody is going anywhere. Our Sipur Hikaya association is also doing some study trips. Our last one was on the 5th of October, 2 days before the catastrophe. We were in East Jerusalem and in the Bedouin settlement of Khan el-Ahmar, and we learned about the situation, about the conflict, and about the situation, what's going on. And to understand, the most important in Sipur Hikaya and in horizons of conflict is to understand the other side, to getting to know each other, and even though we disagree or we have disagreements between us, to build the bridges, to continue to live together, because all of us are here to stay. I'll soon forward the stage to Hamze. I want only a few technical issues to say. Me and Hamze will have a set. I'll ask him questions, and he will give his speech. Later on, we'll open it for everybody here for discussion, for remarks, for questions. And if in the meanwhile you want to write things on the chat, please do it. But please don't do it in a way that interrupt or take us not to listen to Hamze. So anyway, anyone who writes a question on the chat, after Hamze will finish his talk, we'll open the mics for everybody. So let's go. Let's start, and I'll start with the first questions. 1 minute, sorry. Okay. So again, welcome, Hamze. It's my special honor that you are here with us. And let's start from the beginning. Please tell us about your life as a child, as an adult in the occupied Palestine. Give us the right context to understand from where you started and how you eventually became a peace activist and not something else.
Thanks, Avi, and thanks everyone for coming tonight. I really appreciate it, and I respect your attention. I respect your activism. I was born in 1990 in a town called Dora. It's in southwest Hebron. I was one of 8 siblings. We lived in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. Dora also, even though it's a big city, everyone knows everyone there. It was during the first Intifada. I don't remember much of the first Intifada, but I remember Oslo and the coming of the Palestinian Authority that gradually started to govern the Palestinian life, education, health, and all other services. I think I had an average Palestinian life in my generation, limited in our towns. We didn't have like trips or family vacations or I don't know, going to the beach or any typical things that people have in their childhood. But it was still fun. Kids find creative ways to play and entertain themselves. When it comes how I became peace activist through life, I think I was exploring how to be an activist in general. Everyone in Palestine automatically is an activist, regardless of their age or gender. I wanted to do something that can be meaningful and can be impactful. So I was exploring, studying, reading all political views and history. And also I was trying with the internet to read Israeli media, understand the Israeli society. It looked very hopeless in many ways. You know, everywhere you read, there's no hope, there's no trust, there's no real process for change or for coexistence. You hear more negative news than good news, and every year was worse than the year before. But when I went to study in Bir Zeit University in Ramallah, I came across a group of Israeli and Palestinians who met in Bejala. It was an unofficial group, students mainly from political science or Middle Eastern studies, and some Palestinians from different faculties. I came there out of curiosity because until then I only met Israelis as soldiers or settlers, very scary, very aggressive, version of Israel. And I went there with questions to meet, like when I went to meet these Israelis, the students, with the questions, but also to listen. When I came there, I was in many ways optimistic that even though that's minority, but there are people who think differently, there are people who think critically and in large degree concerned about the future. And they're trying in a very beautiful way to do activities in their life, either to teach about Nakba or to teach about the occupation, envision solutions. It was a very interesting group to be part of. And afterwards, I was joining other activities there are not many always, but at that time there were not many, much less than today. And I made friends and I got to know people. At one point, I met with Uri Savir, who was the Israeli chief negotiator in Oslo. And we came up with the idea of Yalla. And it was very encouraging because it was the first time I see Israeli-Palestinian group that has clear plan and clear vision for the future. And people rallied behind it because it was clear. People could sign up or not sign up, but it was clear. It called for two-state solution. It called for many reforms inside Israel, inside Palestine, visions about the region, economic development, social issues. And we had at some point 1 million followers on Facebook. We had online academy where thousands of people, young people from 18 to 35, Israelis and Palestinians and Egyptians and Saudis and Iranians from all over the Middle East and North Africa, coming to get to know each other, but also to learn skills together. We always understood that peace will be made by politicians, but the peace constituency can help make any attempt for peace more successful. And Uri realized that Oslo failed mainly because there was no strong peace constituency in Israel and Palestine organized as much as the extremists to back this process. And we have to prepare for whenever there's a peace process that there are strong civil society and community leaders who will support the politicians. So here it came to my life, and it's really the only thing that makes sense to me. And I tell always people that peace doesn't mean surrender. Peace doesn't mean to accept injustice, but peace is to work with all possible partners to create the future we want. And if it means putting pressure on leaders, we have to do it. If it means educating people inside Israel and Palestine and internationally, we have to do it. But everything is less expensive than war, and it's the only way. And we had decades of conflict. We can have also more decades of conflict. But if we all, put our ego down and think about our life and the life of the future generation, there's no way but peace.
Thank you, Hamze. What was your family's reaction to your activism? Who says yes? Who said no? Who was against? Were the people who were against and were not nice or didn't agree with the dialogue?
My uncle is here, and he was one of the main supporters. And I think he helped me also develop critical thinking in general and critical thinking about politics. It's easy to follow populist, empty slogans that all our leaders now repeat them day and night. Most of people believe these slogans and they follow them. But I'm thankful for my uncle and for my family. My family, even though they had history in conflict and in activism, and my grandfather was a leader who fought Israel and sacrificed his life for the cause. We are not naive to follow empty slogans and visions that have no future. I think it got, in general, there were criticism, there were support in the past when I started, but in the last years, people are more radical. I think both sides were to these things. Like if they disagree with you, they want to undermine your work. But in the past, people would disagree but still respect your work. So maybe I was luckier than others with my family that they were open-minded. I know other friends who were doing similar things and they were hiding from their families, or they couldn't continue because they couldn't handle anymore the criticism from their family.
Right, okay. I have another questions about, many Israelis, I'm not sure they are here in our audience today, but many Israelis and many politicians try to maintain it all the time, that the educational system in the West Bank is very not only anti-Israel, but also teach how to hate us. How can you tell us that what's the situation, or what is it true? Can we believe those politicians? Personally, I don't believe any one of them, but how can we change it?
Yeah, I tell you honestly my experience as a student. I don't believe there was systematic education of anti-Israel in the schools. In fact, we had a curriculum about the national identity, and it was removed from the curriculum under the pressure of the donor community and like the EU and the US. But the teachers are part of the society, and they have their own views, and they live under the occupation. The students themselves live under the occupation. I mean, the teachers don't need to teach anything. Like, if any of you lived and grew up under the occupation, you have enough reasons to hate. You have enough reasons to be angry when there's absolutely no vision for any different life. There were teachers who supported Oslo. There were teachers who were against Oslo. It's just a natural representation of the society. But there's no, from the Palestinian Authority, someone in charge of teaching hate against Israel. It's the opposite. I believe the Palestinian Authority actually losing public support because they don't do anything about national identity. So the teachers end up doing what they believe. But even if the schools, were forbidden from teaching anything, I think still young people in the street at home, hearing the news, seeing the army every night, knowing who was arrested, who was not arrested, watching the news about what the world is promising Palestinians, they will get desperate, they will get angry, they will get frustrated. It doesn't have to come from the school. I personally never felt the school. At that time, I was personally angry that they don't teach us about, nationalism at that age.
I see. Okay. You told us before about how you started and your work with Yala. So please tell us also about your last work with the Hands of Peace. What's your impression from dealing with both with the youngsters that you and the Israeli coordinator together work with?
Yes, so Hands of Peace, it's an organization that started in 2001, I think. They bring Palestinian and Israeli teenagers from age 15 to 17, also American teenagers from Jewish and Arabic background, to spend 3 weeks summer camp either in Chicago or in San Diego. The kids travel with the staff to these sites, and their day is divided by, like, in the morning, they have political dialogue, very serious political dialogue, facilitated in a respectful and safe environment. And in the afternoon, they have workshops and leadership training. And they also do a lot of fun activities together. They go to the beach, they go to museums, they go to parties, they have dinners together. Kids live with American host families. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see how these kids, when they are in a normal environment, when they are equal in a safe place in America, where everyone is treated in that camp with respect and in equal manner, they're just like brothers and sisters. You really cannot know who is Israeli and who's Palestinian, who's Jewish, who's Muslim, who's Christian. The American staff struggles to know who's whom, because they're exactly similar. They want the same things, they do the same problems, they have the same interests, and they become good friends. Sadly, when they go back home, the Israelis, some of them will have immediately to join the army, and the Palestinians go back to live under their occupation. Now, this work just shows how it could be if Israel and Palestine is in a state of peace, that most of people, like these kids, and I choose the Palestinian kids randomly and from every city and every village and every could just, under, like, now it's a radical situation, they become radical. If the situation is healthier, there's no reason to assume they will not get along and have a life like any young person in this world.
But from your experience, from the years that you worked with and the groups that you guided, that you were in charge of, did some of them kept the connections? Do you know about it?
Some did, and mainly like the Palestinian citizens of Israel and the Jewish Israelis, because they could meet, they couldn't hang out with each other and visit each other. The Palestinians in the West Bank, less, because they come back and, only with the internet, they keep chatting in WhatsApp, the groups that he created in the US, and Instagram, but it gets less and less because their life, becomes more dominant experience for them. then we tried sometimes to bring them to meet again, but we were not successful to get permits from the Israeli army to get them to Jerusalem. There were always different regulations and always complicated to get these permits. But honestly, they wanted to meet. I mean, they were asking us to meet in person. But my understanding that this organization over 20 years, the connections disappear slowly because, you know, the Israelis live for the army 3 years or 2 years, and in the army they don't speak to the Palestinians. And after the army, they have new challenges in their life and they have to do other things. The Palestinians go to universities, and then you know, life happens.
So let's skip to the 7th of October. And where were you the 7th of October? How did it impact your activity?
So actually, I came after the last summer camp with Hands of Peace. I came back, I think the 4th of October to Ramallah. I used to live in Ramallah. And, you know, on the 5th of October, I was with my son in Ramallah going to a playground. And the way back, 3 soldiers who were hiding in the street jumped in front of us, and they thought we were going to car ram them. And we were really close to be killed. And then on the 6th of October, I went to visit my mom because in Dora, because I have not seen her for a long time. I went with my son. We had a very nice lunch with all the family, and I slept over. In the morning, I heard the rockets from Gaza. And when I checked the news, I realized that this is not a normal event. So I knew I have few hours to leave Dora, because what the army usually does, collective punishment, everything closed, and I would be stuck in Dora. And the mother of my son was in Ramallah. So I drove immediately to Ramallah. Already the checkpoint, like the entrance of Dura was closed by the army, and I took like alternative road through the like farmer roads. When I reached Ramallah, and we were all watching the news, and I realized more and more how dangerous what happened. I decided to leave. I thought it doesn't worth it to be in this dangerous situation. And knowing the leaders we have, knowing the leaders we have also in the world, that this will not end nicely or end in the least damaging way, that will be the opposite, that it will be a catastrophe, and no one can imagine the end of it. So I crossed to Jordan. I spent 2 weeks in Jordan, where my son went to a similar school. Like, he used to go to the French school of Ramallah. So he spent another 2 weeks in the French school in Amman. And, you know, during these 2 weeks, I realized more and more that it's even worse than I could imagine. And I decided that maybe it's better for me to go to Italy, where my son is Italian. I am Italian citizen now, where it will be more sustainable for us until this storm, you know, relax, and we see how the reality in Palestine and Israel look like. So I have been living in Italy since then. I'm doing whatever I can do to educate decision makers and people about the situation and what needs to happen. So yeah, life changed completely for me.
But as I wrote everybody, since then I think you intensified your peace work, especially in the media, and you were in the peace rally in London. You were interviewed by Peace and Amateur. You were also in a few other Zoom meetings with, I think it was another British organizations talking about the situation. So tell us, right now, I know that you are in Manchester working with the students. So tell us what you are doing, because you didn't lose hope. And I know hope is a very important word for you.
Yeah, actually, the reason I'm doing all of that is that it doesn't seem there is hope, and we have to create this hope. I always believed as long as the conflict is open, we should just expect the worst. This is common sense in all history and tradition. You know, if you have conflict with someone, you wouldn't sleep well in the night. How could you, you know, assume life will go on, you know, as if it's nothing and if it's everything normal? But October 7 was beyond anyone's expectation. It's bigger than anything. It's not only the ignoring of the conflict, but also the corruption of the leaders in Israel, and also the what Hamas could do. Like, I mean, they always claimed they're gonna do this, but I don't know why Bibi and other Israeli governments preferred them over the Palestinian Authority, at least in actions. In words, it changed, but in actions, they were always more preferred. After I left, I realized that maybe this is our last opportunity to fix the situation. And, you know, with all the people who died, 1,200 in Israel and close to 30,000 in Gaza, this war will end, but if we don't change the dynamic, the next war absolutely will be bigger. And it's whoever trusts that, you know, that they will be okay without peace is the history shows it's not a realistic expectation. But also, you know, how many generations of Palestinians and Israelis have gone through this, and it just seems to get worse. How can we accept that this happened to our children? How can we be so irresponsible to leave this conflict to our children, and seeing how bad it can get? There's always possibility that can get worse. So as a responsible person, as a responsible father, as a person who loves my people, and I have big faith in humanity, and I think humanity is one. I said if in the past I was careful not to speak up, if I was careful not to be in uncomfortable situation, what's going on make it, you know, worth it to be discomfortable, to risk even, so that we do our best, and we know in the future, at least I will know that in these dark times, I took this stand and I did what I believe is the right thing to do. And what I'm doing is telling people, like, the leaders who brought us to this situation, the mindsets that brought us to this situation, the dynamics that brought us to this situation cannot take us out of this situation. To go out of this situation, it has to be different. We have to acknowledge that there are 7 million Palestinians, 7 million Jews who deserve equal life, deserve equal privileges, deserve equal everything, and they have nowhere to go. Jews have no Jewish land, they don't know where to return to, and Palestinians will not go to Jordan and Egypt. It's not gonna happen. So either we live like a decent human being in equal and healthy society. There will always be problems, but it will not be as bad as now. And it's not the first conflict in history. It's not the last conflict in history. Europe, 100 years ago, millions of people died here. And now you can drive your car from Portugal to France to Spain, and you know, you're not worried about anything. And it's up to the people, you know, it's about their life. Our leaders are not suffering as much as we suffer. They are okay, and they are gaining you know, personal interest out of their actions, and out of their privilege to be in power. But it's the normal people who their life is getting worse and worse, the quality of their life getting worse and worse. They have to normalize the unhealthy. They have to normalize being unsafe, to normalize having a life without any freedom, to normalize losing loved ones and call them heroes. It's all for the service of the leaders. It's not serving the people. And 75 years of this conflict, we're still in square one. We are still in existential threat, and we're still in. So I wanted to have this voice, delivered, as its responsibility to deliver this voice. The extremists are not shy, are not quiet, and we have to also be not shy and quiet. Nothing to lose. Like anyone in Israel and Palestine now has equal chance to be heard. What we're trying to protect by staying quiet and careful. So that's why I'm going in the media. So in the UK, I have been going to Jewish and Muslim schools and mixed schools, telling them if you want just to pick a side and treat it as a football match, who is right and who's wrong, okay, maybe this gives you a nice feeling and you think you are being helpful, but honestly, you're not helping the people on the ground. If you want to help people on the ground, help us change things that will lead to solution. Talk to each other, work with each other, put pressure on the leaders in the West who are not helping. Go volunteer there, go to become doctor, but just to spread anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and help the original European anti-Semites and racist people in their discourse by attacking each other, then you're not helping. You're just wasting your energy, feeling good about yourself. And we have been hearing, like I go with Israeli partner, and I feel that the students in the schools respect a lot what we say, and they have very tough questions because they watch social media and they hear things in their families, but still we give them honest answers and we open conversation with them.
You talked about that this is not the worst conflict, and I remember a few years ago you went with Yala to Rwanda. This was a few years after the terrible massacre they did there. So can you take some example or experience from their way of reconciliations that can be adopted by us?
Yeah, it's really very interesting because when I went there, I was shocked. Like almost 1 million Tutsi were killed by Hutu in a very short time. And then the leaders decided that we have to do truth and reconciliation. We have to forgive. And I was like, how can you forgive the killers, the rapists? And they told me we do it so we have a normal future. And they really used the traditional reconciliation processes that they had in their society for generations, where the people who did bad things would come in front of the community and say what they have done and who they have killed, and the community will forgive them on the condition that they will change their life afterwards. And today, Rwanda is the most prosperous African country, the most safe African country. There's nothing like dangerous happening. I used to walk at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in a city I don't know, no one is there unsafe. And you can't believe that just a few years ago, 1 million people got killed. Like teachers killed their students, priests killed their service, people in their service. Everyone killed everyone, neighbor killed their neighbor, and there was zero trust after this among anyone. But they faced it, and it takes courage. Only brave people, I think, can do that. But now they are gaining, and their children are living in one of the nicest places in the world.
We need these leaders, yeah. Yeah, we need these brave leaders. My last questions before I open it for our audience is that we are here, or not just here because among the participants who registered to the conversation, lots of Israelis that I know that are peace activists, and in different ways, in different organizations. What is your message as a Palestinians to all of us, especially to the Israelis?
To the Israelis, you know, I remember even I was a young person during Oslo, when there was some hope, despite all the failures of Oslo. People went on with their life, living their life fully, and apart from few occasions, it was safe and it was very promising. People started investing, building. There were Palestinians who were going to party in Israel and shopping, and Israelis coming to cities like Bethlehem and Ramallah. It was not fully peace, but it was a direction of peace, because peace is a long, long road. We can always go that path. It's not an easy path, but it's way much alternative, and in the long run, much better than the power alternative. Ariel Sharon and all the leaders who wanted to show that only power can teach Palestinians to accept and to behave proved to be wrong. And Israel, I blame Israel because they are the most powerful player in the game. You know, with power, you only empower the people like Hamas. With collective punishment, when all Palestinians are treated, you know, if something happens out of Gaza, all Gaza have to pay the price. You're telling people, whether you like it or not, you're on the side of Hamas. And when the West Bank, a city like Ramallah, somebody does something from Ramallah, all people from Ramallah have to suffer. This logic of breaking people by force doesn't work, and for sure doesn't work with Palestinians and the Arabic culture, I believe. These people, you can buy them with kindness, you can buy them with dignifying them. And leaders like Smotrich, Bibi, Ben Gvir, all the tough guys have only brought dead soldiers back home, and a sense of insecurity, and more enemies. Because these enemies in our side too, like the people like Hamas with the vision of destruction and vision of denying the Jewish connection to the land, only thrive in these situations, with the hopelessness, with despair, with poverty, and neglect. Like when Bibi go to, you know, using his connection with Donald Trump to make peace with Arab countries and say Palestinians don't matter, you're telling Palestinians you have to be suicidal to be seen, to be visible. And we have to change this direction. We have to not be naive to these emotional claims by leaders who you know, it resonates to people when they speak tough things, but it's in reality, and maybe it's counterintuitive, the opposite will actually, you know, people like Gideon Levy and Amira Haas have humanized Israelis and normalized Israelis more than all the Israeli governments. Like, just by acknowledging Palestinians and acknowledging their aspiration, and people open for them. Amira Haas lives in Ramallah, and I know she hangs out with the most radical friends in Ramallah. I know, like but just by being nice to them and kind to them, they let down all their guards. And I believe the only way to make Palestinians coexist and want to accept the Jewish existence in this land is by telling them, you are right, you want a normal life, you want an equal life, that's normal, and there's nothing wrong about it. And not enter these discussions about blame and shame and your leaders rejected peace, and all these slogans that, you know, they are more propaganda than true. Just acknowledging people and invite them to work together as partners with all their flaws, you know. You know, we can't be perfect after all these years living under occupation and the corruption of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and all these dynamics, that we will not have mistakes. But for the vast majority, I believe, will be ready to live like any human being around the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Hamze. Before there are a few questions on the chat. One is Arnon. He says that he doesn't have a mic, so I'll read his question. There are those who claim that the main problem preventing the achievement of peace is that while the Israelis are fighting for establishing and the existence of state for the Jewish people, the Palestinians are fighting, for the destruction of this state, and not for the establishment of a Palestinian state. What do you think of this claim?
You know, we can say whatever we want. At the end of the day, Palestinians want a normal life. Offer them a normal life. Say, like one Israeli leader say, Palestinians deserve as much as the Jewish deserve. And let's talk about the details afterward. Jewish state is so threatening to Palestinians in this environment. Jewish state means, in the context that we have, unfortunately, it shouldn't be like this, that no Palestinian state. When any Israeli leader puts a map of the Jewish state, it's the whole land, and they repeat night and day that they are advancing the Jewish interest. So how can Palestinian identify with this state? How can a Palestinian who's deprived from anything be so tolerant to it? Like, we have also to have empathy. Like, what if it was the other way around? Will the Jews be so sympathetic to a Palestinian state that is built, at least by feeling on the idea that they should not, that the Jews don't exist? So it's a trust issue. We have to build the trust. We have to clarify that a Jewish state does not replace or deny the Palestinian right for equal state. Or if it's two-state solution, let's say it. If it's one-state solution, let's say it. But neither a two-state solution and neither quality, then I don't know any Palestinian who would just, you know, normalize this situation. I don't know any Israeli who would normalize this situation if they were the other way around.
Okay, thank you. Rich, do you want to ask your questions? Rich. Oh, let me.
Hello.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, you're referring to me. I thought you were going to read them.
You're welcome to say it.
Okay. Yeah, I hear a lot of small things, such as one party understanding the other, but I'm curious about what specific changes are you proposing beyond that are going to actually bring peace and prosperity for this generation or generations to come, which maybe starts with understanding one another, but what will be the end state when this is done that will benefit the generations?
Thank you.
Or maybe what you propose or would recommend.
I think the first thing, start the will. If there's the will, there's the way. I don't have preference for any specific solution, but my problem is with the will of not achieving peace. I mean, there's the current Israeli leaders and also the previous Israeli leaders were always ashamed or even you know, scared to say the word peace or to even acknowledge the Palestinian connection to the land or the Palestinian aspiration. So if there is a vision that with minimum common things that we can care about, that both people here to stay, both people worthy of the same things, then we can let experts deal with the specifics of the solution. I don't claim to know how every street will be shaped and how every institution will be built. Neither the people who solved the Irish conflict or the Europe after the war had all the answers, but they had the will to change the reality, honest will to change the reality. But I'm scared that the will is not to move to that direction. It's the opposite. There are still people who think that Palestinians will disappear, and that only Jewish interest in this land, whether it's in Israel or in the settlements, worthy of developing. And Palestinians are seen only as security threat. And if you treat them as security subjects, they will be security subjects for you. Like the way you treat people, they will behave. If you treat them as friends, they will behave as friends. If you treat them as automatic terrorists, they will show you, yeah, they can be automatic terrorists for you. So I think the details are not important. I think we should start with the first step, and not only by the Israeli leaders, also by the world. The world also should make it clear that Jewish life and Palestinian life equally important, and then we will internalize this in our life. But when people know that their life doesn't matter, then it is what it is.
Thank you. Vered, you raise your hand, please.
Yes, thank you for coming. It was very interesting to hear you. I also follow you on social media, and I think we had a discussion once about it. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think your role as an activist is? If you think your role is more to the outside community, like to people in, England or US, or more inside your own community in Palestine, or to us as Israelis, who do you think you're trying to talk to?
Thanks, Fred. So it changes, depends on the situation. So before October 7th, my main focus was on the Palestinians, with also some communication I had with the State Department and some European government officials. But mainly my focus was on the Palestinians, whether my work with Yalla or with Hands of Peace or everything I wrote and everything I spoke about. Since the war, my main focus is on stopping the war. This is the most urgent issue. It doesn't make sense to talk about solutions and the future, and when the present is very scary and very bloody. So with stopping the war, my main audience has been the Israeli people, the decision makers in the Europe. I met with Macron. I spoke in the UK Parliament. I spoke with the American Congress. I co-wrote a paper with a Israeli friend of mine that we sent to Biden. So it is the goal is to stop the war. So who are the most relevant people who can influence that?
Thank you. Yair?
Thank you.
Yair, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. First, thank you for the inspiring talk and for your activity. You just mentioned that the most important thing right now is to stop the war, but still, I would like to ask you how popular is the idea of the two-state solution among Palestinians, as far as you know?
Nowadays, I think it's not popular. It's not completely, and I think there are around 30 to 50% of support for it. I think most of the people, I have issues with these polls, how they are made. when you call random person and in the context of Palestine, ask them about two-state solution, who is calling, is it the Shabak or the Palestinian Authority, or you would just, not give an honest answer. But also people believe it's not even a question. It's not gonna ever happen. So why you are asking me about it? Like the majority of Palestinians think it's impossible that Israel will offer them a state. They have reached this conclusion. Now, if there is really some serious talks about it, let's say Biden make a serious proposal about it, or the Israeli government change, and there is an option on the table, I think there will be at least 2/3 of the, if not 2/3, I would say between 50 to 70% of the population would accept some form of two-state solution.
Thanks.
Okay. Any more people want to comment, to ask questions? Okay. So Hamze, I want to conclude our meeting because I think one of the most important issues that you are dealing now is really building the hope again. So please, I want you to say your vision. How we make it? I think both Israelis and Palestinians right now are in our lowest point of, we can't even say relationship or for non-relationship because of since the 7th of October and whatever is going to in Gaza. So how we resume, what should we do with the simple people that are here to resume hope, to go back to our world?
Yeah, very good question. I don't have really easy answer for this. What I think we can do is, everyone does their best in their own life, in their society, in their community. But strategically, on the bigger picture, we need to show the world, to show the American administration, Europe, and all the Arab countries that this conflict deserves the most attention. That people who were abandoned by their leaders should not be abandoned by the world. If we have crazy leaders, they shouldn't follow our crazy leaders. If America is a friend of Israel, friends tell their friends when they are not doing the right things. And I mean, I don't blame the people now to be angry and frustrated and hopeless, but I blame the people who have power and who are leaders. Why we have leaders? Because leaders are the people who have like long-term vision, and they can see the interest of the people, even sometimes against the will of the people. So we need to push our leaders and the world leaders, and also our surroundings, at least the key people in the society, the people who know better but they are quiet, that they should speak up, because maybe in the past it was a bearable life and they could isolate themselves from all these issues, but now they can't, and in the future they will also can't. The West is very now anti-Semitic and very Islamophobic, and the world will seem very small for them if this conflict continue. So in everyone's interest, it should be the top priority for everyone to work on ending this conflict with utmost honesty and with courage, because what we are afraid of, people are dying. Like, what peace can be worse than what's happening now? Thank you, Afi.
Thank you. Yes, Afi.
Yeah, Hamza, I wonder what you think about Marwan Barghouti. Between me and you, there is quite a good chance that within 6 or 12 or 18 months, Benny Gantz will be the Prime Minister of Israel. It doesn't mean that he will have all the power in the world, but we can at least hope to see him in the chair. And I wonder Will he meet Marwan Barghouti? What will happen if he meets? What do you see? What is your idea, your thoughts about Marwan Barghouti?
We have to try him. I mean, I know that he has credibility in the street. We should give him our full trust until he proves the opposite. But we have to understand, even if Gantz and Marwan would be so honest and so dedicated to peace, they will not succeed on their own if there's no public support, if there's no, because they will have all the settlers and Hamas and Iran and all the crazy people working day and night to undermine them, and they might succeed. So we have to counter that, and we have to give them all the backing and not fall in the propaganda of the anti-peace camp. And we should, show them that it's worth it, that if they want to do peace, they have people on the ground who support them.
One more question. Anat, I saw your hand. Ladies first, please.
So my question is religion. I think that there are people who are traditional and believe in their right of their people without being fanatic religions. But there are Messianic Jews who don't see anything in Israel except Jews. And there are fanatic Muslim who think, my problem with religion is the Abrahamic religion, all three of them, is that they believe they are the only one. The Jews are the chosen people, and the Muslims are the only pure one, and everybody else is infidel, and the Christian offered the only salvation, everybody else is doomed. And that's the problem, basically, to me. I'm just speaking from my view. And how I'm asking a bigger question of how we can enhance traditional but secular education on all sides, because in all of those religions, there is also turn the other cheek and love your brother as yourself, and there's the other side too. And what's your ideas about how to enhance that and educate in such way that the extremist haters on all sides of three Abrahamic religion are not having much bigger voice than their number?
Very good question. We have to remember that this conflict was not religious, and the main players in this conflict, throughout the conflict, except starting from the 80s, were mainly secular people. They have, the guilt of perpetuating this conflict and creating the environment for the religious people to become relevant. The religious people, the fanatics, they wouldn't have thrived in a normal situation, only because people lost hope, lost the trust in the system, lost trust in the future, and found refuge in religious and religious fantasies. And I think the only way to marginalize these groups, they will always exist in every single country in the world, is by offering a better vision for the people, a better alternative, to make them seem irrelevant and seem the least desirable way. But in context of Gaza, imagine you are in Gaza, and for at least 17 years of your life, you are living in open-ended prison, and you are besieged from Israel, besieged from Egypt. Everything comes in and out, calculated and highly, difficult to reach you. And no one is giving you any promise of anything. No one ever even lied to you and told you will have better future. You go to God, it's normal, like you have to cope with your life. And we have to...
I'm not taking sides at all.
No, it's general. I think it's true even in Sweden. Like if you put Swedish people under similar circumstances, they will start to find these crazy ideas appealing, because the reality is so radical that we have to show. I mean, if Gantz or whoever leader honestly show people a pathway for a life where they can dream that their children will not go to the army, that they will dream to be part of the Middle East, that Palestinians will dream to be equal people with equal rights and equal, entitlement to things. Then people will say, like, leave me alone, to the crazy people. Like, I want to live, I want to work, I want to travel. I have plans, but right now, no one plan, no one, it's high uncertain situation, survival, very dark prospect. So I can understand people get crazy.
Yeah, I understand where it comes from. I don't so much understand where it comes from in Israel, because the same people who are now fanatic and running the government didn't even believe in Israel's right to exist as Messianic Jews when it started. It's just insanity. So, for me, secular education is really important. Or if not secular, then an emphasis on the part of all of our religion that is talking about unity and because it's in Islam and Christianity and
It's in every
Judaism.
society. It's in every culture, every tradition. We get what we what we watch and what we emphasize. If we want that spark to win, then we have to show vision for it. We have to invest in it. There's almost zero money invested in peace in Israel and Palestine. It's a very ridiculous amount of money. Like, all the money invested in a yearly basis is less than the cost of one bomb. If Biden, with every bomb he sent to Israel, sent the same amount of money to be invested in peace, we would have totally different reality. But there's no money invested in tolerance.
Absolutely, because
But there's money invested in fanatics. There's so much money coming from the US to the radical Jews, from radical Jews in the US, from the evangelicals. Iran send money. That's part of the equation. They're not confused about what they need to do to advance their cause. And they do it very well. Our side is not doing anything.
Yeah, thank you.
Rich, you have another question? But you're muted, Rick.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, this is a follow-up to my previous question. This is a proposal that I've seen circulating, and it gets rejected, but to me, it represents perhaps a different way forward, and that is to look at the model of the Republic of Ireland and Britain, where they established, dual governing authority over that land that they were in dispute of. And I'm wondering just how feasible that would be. And to me, for Israel to then be investing in Gaza and in the West Bank, and if there is some type of proposal like that, or even a different one, where the people can see there is hope, and then to start investing themselves into that hope. So I just wanted to present that to you and see that or something like that, because that's what I meant by a vision for the future. It seems like to instill hope and peace, there needs to be something that they're seeing where that hope and peace is actually going to pay off. That's my question.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think there should be a vision that people can rally behind. And I hear ideas about land for all, where, Palestinians will have their own government, Jews will have their own government, but there will be some open borders and collaboration on many things. And it makes sense to me. And their claim is that separation doesn't work. Where Palestinians and Israelis are most separated is the most dangerous situation, like Gaza, the West Bank. And where there's less separation, like the Palestinian citizens of Israel and East Jerusalem, there's still problems, but way less dangerous problems. And I never thought about it before, and it was eye-opening for me. So yes, I think such vision, you know, on such a small land, instead of building walls between people, because walls create fear, create hate, that should be, you know, maybe symbolically Palestinians want to have their own state. So to have this word Palestine that they can put on their flag and their national football team, but have open borders policy and like Schengen area in Europe where, you know, people and also products move freely.
Right. And I'll just comment that sadly, it seems to me what's happening is the definition of insanity. It's just the same thing has been going on for decades and decades, and I don't see any solution that's going to change it in any way. It's just going to continue unless someone comes up with something that both sides see is going to bring some hope and the opportunity for peace. So thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, but we are here to make the change. We are here because we didn't lose hope, and we are not the only one. At least I know a lot about the Israeli side, about the Israeli peace side. We were last Friday. We were more than 1,000 people in Haifa with the Standing Together movement, and we try to do. We're not the only one. Lots of organizations, lots of Israelis. Unfortunately, still not enough, but we didn't lose hope.
Yeah, I think you heard my point is that if they see a vision that's going to calm things down and something that's going to bring hope to both sides, then I think the individuals and the governing authorities will be more invested. So that's why I've asked this question. If there is a specific vision that both sides will actually be invested in and willing to pursue peace. So I hope that materializes. Thanks.
Sefi, do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Hamze, you know, we have our program Horizons in the conflict, and right now it's in Hebrew. Israeli schools, 15 schools at least were supposed to teach it, more than 2,000 youngsters. Some schools are just starting now, some schools are still hesitating, but we are speaking of a couple of thousands of Israelis exposed to the complexity of the conflict and to the two narratives model. And we are looking to try and expand to the West Bank. And I wonder if you have any ideas for us, if you can help us in some way to find, let's say that we find the money for the translation. It's not translation, it's like more adaptation. But do you think there is an option, there is a chance to try and bring it to some schools in the West Bank?
I don't think in a formal way. The Palestinian schools are very, very conservative about this. I think can be done in different ways, alternative ways. I know that people individually learn about the Israeli complexity out of curiosity, and now with the internet, they Google, they read Israeli media, they listen to Israeli journalists, but it can be done in different ways through different programs. I was involved with Kids for Peace that doesn't exist anymore, where Palestinian students were coming to Jerusalem and Jewish students from Jerusalem, and they would meet and they would teach the complexity of the narratives and the religions and traditions, bringing speakers and doing tours. So it can be done alternatively.
Nice,
But
good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you very much, Hamza, and thank you everybody who joined us this evening. Yeah, we will keep up with our hope. We don't have any other option. And as you said earlier, we are doing it not only for us, we are doing it for our children, for our grandchildren. And even if it's not in our lifetime, everybody see my hair already. But yeah, we need to continue because we don't have any other option. We are here, all of us, and we will stay here. And we have to work together. And we'll continue to work together.
I'm sure we will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Shukran.
much, Hamze.
Shukran.
Thank you, Sefi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank
Yes.
you. See you
Many
again
thanks.
soon.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.